Hello everyone. Today we have our third day, planet Mars. So, as you know, we have to have our material up, as you know, the boys up. We have our three paintbrushes. We have our larger flat brush. We have our smaller brush. We have our smaller a blue shade or so, or possibly a black shade. Mine is my personal one, so it's quite worn out. And you're going to want to have a cup filled with some soapy water. It doesn't look very soapy right now, but what you should do is fill it up with water first and then add the soap so you don't have suds. I'm going to have a nice paper towel here for wiping off any excess water and also scrubbing off the bowl of paint. And then I have my little artist palettes of all the different paints while you have your little setup with the little tubes. And we have our little tiny canvas right here. And don't forget our pencil. So, start everything off. What you're going to want to do is draw your circle. Just like that. Just have a nice circle to go off of, so you can start off with an easy peasy. You're going to want to make sure you have a good amount of space right in this section, because that is where we are going to be making the Mars symbol. So you're going to want to keep that space clear. Make sure you don't go too far into this corner when you're making your circle. So for the first step, what we're going to be doing is we're going to start off with a nice red. So you're going to take your bigger, flatter brush right here. Get the sense of light. Our bigger, flatter brush, you're going to want to dab that out a bit. Make sure it's nice and dry. You're going to go in, starting off with the palette. You're going to go with your brilliant, more deeper shade of red. Maybe it's like a more blue base red. It's going to look a little darker and deeper and less orange. So you're going to take that one. Just going to paint the whole thing red. No, Mars is our red planet. So basically the whole base of Mars will be red, except for the top and bottom. So you don't want to forget that. So right here at the top, you're going to want to have a nice little semicircle. You're going to leave off for the mountains. The top, the nice icy mountains. And at the bottom, same goes here. I'm going to have just a nice little open area for your icy area. Icy areas on the top and bottom of Mars. Just going to the strokes don't really matter in this portion. You're just going to want to go around. You're going to adjust very lightly. Just lightly go by the tip for this part. So like angle it as such and go around like that when you're edge of the planet. Other than that, you do not need to worry about any kind of brush strokes, because this is just the first base and you're just trying to get planet right. Perfect. Because the ice is perfectly, but it gives that kind of shape. What you should get is kind of like weird red tennis balls look. Is for your first base. What you're going to want to do, bring this back into the light, you're going to want to go in with your more detailed brush, not the tiny one, but the medium-sized detail brush. dab that off. Move that to the side. And then when you go back into your paint, you want to go in for the deeper, less brilliant red that's kind of like an orange based red. You're going to want to go in there, get a good amount on the brush like so. And you're going to want to paint over just did with this color. Just light little strokes because you don't want to take up the paint. The point of this one, like I said from the last ones, if you were there, is that we're going to have a whole lot of blending when it comes to the planets. Because they're such unique colors, and with all the different mountains and all the impacts from asteroids and all that stuff, you're going to have a lot of different textures and colors going, just very subtle. And you don't quite detect it as much. But you notice when you're trying to recreate it that you need a slightly different color. And as you see, this is just like fireball red right. But we're going to subdue this a little bit later. You're going to want to take that, wash it off like so. You see my water is now turning a nice pink color. That off. Dab that. And so you could get a more lighter color. What we're going to do is we're going to go back off with the flatter brush. You're going to want to clean that off. See, I still have some red. I want to make it as dry as possible. Like I said, I go on my hand a bit to see if it's dry enough. What you're going to want to do, we have this nice tan taupe color. And I'm going to go into that, dip into that. This may seem scary at first. I promise you it's going to help with the color. You're going to take this taupe color and put it across the whole planet, minus ice parts. This is going to dull out the bright red, but still keep the red color. Once again, no particular strokes for this part. Like so. It's going to give it a lighter sheen. Really gonna dull out that. You can get. That's exactly what we want. Like so. Going to go back in with our medium-sized brush here. Have that. As you see, we have, like, with this color, we're still going to want it to be just a little bit more. So what you're going to do is go into your orange right here, dab into that, and from this area right here, you're going to want to zigzag orange color down. You're going to want to lose some of the color as you're going. That's going to help it out. It's going to give it a lighter color and give it a bit more. See how that brightens that up a little bit? That's what we want. Get back into the orange just a little bit. You're going to do the same thing on this side, but you're going to do a smaller section. So dab it on right here, and then you're going to zag that back and forth, little tiny zigzags. Keep going. Keep your brush strokes light. You don't make them heavy. As soon as you make them heavy, you're going to start picking up colors again. As you see, we're already getting some nice texture going. It's adding some dimension that we didn't have before. And you want to keep the area around the edges right here. You want to keep that the same red because that's going to cause a nice shadow once we put the black in, and it's going to make it look more 3D than 2D. So you're going to want to keep that in. Make sure you don't get rid of that. So you're going to get rid of that orange, clean that off. Try it off on the ends of it. Then you're gonna go right back in. Sorry, I almost forgot to show you the paint. We're gonna go right in to, let's go for this red right here. Not the brilliant red, but the more subdued. It's a little orange. Just a little bit on the tip, like so. And then in the section in the middle that we didn't get a chance to paint yet, you're going to want to start painting that. So back and forth zigzags like. If you find that you're picking up a little bit too much paint, that might be because your brush is wet. You want to drag that off a little, get back in, then go back. Don't want to overshadow it. You want it to be nice and subtle. You don't want to take away the orange, but you want to make sure you get a nice red because, like we said, Mars is the red planet, the orange planet. You're gonna need that orange for some good texture. Did that. Wait for that. You're gonna let this section right here. Sorry. You're gonna let that section dry a little bit. So while that's drying off a little bit, we're going to do this. Go into black. And with the black here, we're going to paint the background. So I have a big glob of black paint here, which is the most important bit when it comes to painting space scenes. You're going to want to have a good dark black. That's why I gave you the most black, because you don't want it to be sheer. You want this to be the blackest black you could possibly have, so it looks like a void, just like space. I'm going to dance around the edges just like last time. This black paint by itself should be pretty thick, but as you see, we're already having some like white lines, and we do not want those white lines. We want to make it black as possible, so we're going to do a couple of coats. So right now we're going to do just a nice thin coat all the way around. Make sure you do not get into the white part of the planet, because that is the hardest part to try and cover up. Like if you get a little bit of black into the red bit, you could use that for some shadowing, but we want nothing but creams and whites in our icy region. And I just dab my paintbrush a little bit into the water, and like I hit it off to the side like that. And I'm going to dip back into the black just like this, a little bit more in there. And then we're going to continue painting. Just It's going to be our first coat. We're going to do our second coat a little bit later. We want to get that first coat. Also, this gives us time, like I said, to dry out the first part we just did, because we're about to add some more details to it, and we don't want it too wet so we don't pull up a lot of paint. If it's looking a little bit oblong, all you got to do is just round the edges a little bit. Black. Don't have too much. It was going to make it chunky. So you're going to paint around, go nice and flat. You could use a heavier hand when you're painting the background. Once you're going around in the circle, if it's a little bit too oblong, if you wanted more of a perfect circle, which none of the planets truly are a perfect circle, going to want go very light around the edges like we did before when we the icy parts. Cut that out. Like that. You may notice how you're painting, how the black, how you have some white bits, but that's okay. Because like I said, we're gonna go over the black a little later, but we're gonna give it some time to dry so we don't pull up any paint. Now, our next bit is we're going to work on some of the detailing around the planet. We're going to start right here where there's just a nice rocky region where there's a lot of craters in the planet. And for that, we are going to use a mixture of the two smaller brushes. So we're going to start off with the medium-sized brush. And you're going to go into brown right here. Dip the tip a little bit, this much, into the brown. And right here, we're going to start in this little corner. I know it's a circle, but we're going to start doing little circles, little curly cues, just up and around. You want to make like kind of a bit of a straight line, but you want to make a small wave. Whenever you run out of paint, you're going to dip back in and go back. You're going to make just these little curly cues. Just add your beginning section of texture. Just like that. Back in. Little curly cue. We're not going to buff it out right now. We're just trying to add that shape. Down, but mainly it's a straight line. I'm going to add just a tad bit of curvature because the planet is a sphere. But you don't want to add too much of a curvature where it's obvious. Keep that nice curly cue. Go out to this section. Extend this part a little upwards and add more of a line in, and you want to leave a small bit it's not connected there. Get back in, and you want to add just a little bump going up, coming back down. Section completed with the outline. You should have something that looks like this, starting off with your. It's really muddy right now. Thinking, what is this? That is okay, because once we add some more deeper shades into it, it's gonna look good. But right now, we're just getting outline so we can wait for it to dry. So you're going to dip back in to that brown again, still using the same brush. Dip back into the brown. And you're going to want to add another little detail bit with swirls. Just lightly go, starting from this, going up, making a V, and then you're going to make a little dip down, like you're kind of making a balloon animal dog. Swirl up, fade it out with light strokes. These are just little textured spots and craters that are on Mars. Once again, like I said, looks really odd, looks weird, but I promise you, once it's all done, it's gonna come together. Mars, when you're painting it, unlike when we're going to be painting Neptune and Saturn, there's a lot of components when it comes to like a rock planet opposed to the gas giants. The gas giants are very smooth, but with the rock planet, we're gonna have like a whole lot of craters and everything and like random brown spots in between, and it's just gonna look really weird until it's over. So you gotta bear with the process. Now that we have our beginning bits of the craters, it's time to finally get into that white. So we're going in with our skinny brush here, and by now it may have dried out a little bit too much, so you want to dip it in, tap it, feel it. Feels pretty good to me. And you have a white color. Now don't mix these up. There is a white color that is slightly deeper. It has a slight yellow tone. It's called vanilla. You're going to want to dip into that. That's the white you want. You don't want the pure white. You want a more yellowy tone. You kind of see the difference on camera. This one is normal white. This one is the vanilla. It has just a slight yellow tone. And that's the tone we're looking for. We're about to do the icy parts. So you're going to take it for the icy bits and make little lines, just extending just a tad bit outwards. And then just swirl it. You want to make it nice and light. So it adds this slight fluffiness to it at the bottom, like it's ice creeping out. You don't want a perfect line. You want to dab that and swirl. The dab and swirl. Because it creates like an icier effect. The ice on Mars is not going to be absolutely perfect straight lines. That's not what's going to make it realistic. Your dots. Sorry, that was an alarm. And you're going to want to have these little dots going in. And it's just going to deepen up the white shade. You're going to want to do the same thing on this side. Dip into the vanilla just a little bit, just like we did last time. And dot it. See how it's creating a nice little ice texture at the top? So it doesn't look just like the straight line that we have down here, but it gives like a nice icy cap. That's what we want. And you're gonna want to just buff it out just a little bit if you can. We're only working on the top bit for right now, by the way. And then you want to be careful about this part. You're gonna go right here into then to add just tiny bit of the brown. That little dot, you're gonna add like little dots of the brown, up in diagonal shape to the ice. You're gonna want to put a little bit down at the bottom. You're gonna scrape that off. And then once you scrape it off, make sure like you see none of the brown left. And then you're gonna take the dry brush, buff that out. Go back in. Tiny dab. Some of it off a little. That in. Lightly course over. And if you find your brush is a little bit too dry to do the blending, lightly dip it into the water. Then it's going to help that. Take that off. Then you're going to dip in shade. Then you're going to go in like a little line, like a vein, right into the icy bit. And then you're going to put a dot right here. I'm going to buff that out. Like we do with our buffing, a nice zigzag pattern like we did. And I know it looks big, but we're going to cover that up real soon with some more. Off. Dip back into the vanilla. And you're dabbing in there, just little small dots. You're going to want to keep making little dots, just enough to cover it. Because it's not pure, clean ice where it's going to be just white. It's going to have some brown in there. That's what makes it a little dirtier. That's a little dirtier ice. This corner, got that. So just edge with the dirtier. And you're going to lightly do some little half circles. And this just may look like a hodgepodge, right? But we're going to go in with the stark white. Very, very, very light white. Not the vanilla this time. You're going to go in little tiny zigzags. Tiny dots. Dancing over some section. I want to take it and highlight the edges. Light white, highlight the edges. Barely want to touch the brush to the canvas. You want it to be very light and gentle. Turn it a bit. I line there. Barely touching it once again. And then we're going to go into, sorry, I'm covering, into our brown right here. And you're also going to dip into the red, to the brown. And we're going to add a cut into the ice, like right here. Going to deep section. Just cut into dots. There's going to be like a nice circle. It's going to be a little over your color. That do a little zigzag, you know. This is get in there, cut into this. It's these little bits of texture that just really make the plant and it makes Mars one of the harder planets to do. Some may think like doing stuff like Jupiter and everything would be harder because of all the colors. Actually, doing the rocky planets are much harder than gas giants because giants are much smoother and they do have a lot of colors, but it's just a matter of fact of blending all the colors together. Here we have to add these added bits of texture to really make the planet what we know. While it would be nice and easy to just make Mars our lovely red planet that we know it to be, gotta add the added texture. Into orangey red. And you're gonna want to go a little heavy on this part. This is gonna blend in with the darker color that we just laid down and go around that. You're gonna want to extend back into the red, nice and good glob, and you're gonna want to extend down, just like that. Back and forth, back and forth. May feel like you're covering up what you just painted, but that is the point because it's not supposed to stand out too much, that section. It's supposed to be just a little bit of brown within the red. And you're going to go in with the deeper red, more brilliant red. And you're going to highlight it right here and cut into the ice with a little line. Red dot and cut into the ice. See that? And it's going to add a little bit of a highlight, so that's nice. I'm going to go back into the orangey red and deepen that color over here. We're going for the smaller brush instead of the bigger brush because this helps add the texture we need. Just a little back and forth. Keep this bit, you don't want to take away the little light orange around this circle, so don't completely paint over that with the orangey red. You're going to want to put that down here a little bit because that is like a different color than the rest, so you're going to keep in that, make sure to edges around where we have the mountain same. Then we're going to make that brown deeper again. So dip into that dark brown once again. That's how much I have on. Then you're going to go and make those little circles again, and it's going to look pretty light, but we're going to add some black to it, which is dangerous, but trust me in the process. We're going to do the little circles like we did last time. Just going over the parts we already did. It shouldn't be too hard. Back in. See how we have with this gives like a high one. And then you are going to go into with black. Now this part we got to be very careful with it, so you're going to want to clean off your brush, wet it again, dab it off. It still wet enough. So wet. Dip into the black now. When you dip into this black, you want to go in very lightly light as possible, right? Might get a little water on it off. I have this amount. It's the tiniest bit black. You're gonna want to be very, very careful because just too much will ruin. You want to take it and add little dots, little semicircle dots along the brown bits. Just add them freely along. There isn't a pattern. Just adding it. Then once you start to run out, you're gonna go over the swirl. Start the process. Light dots, barely touching canvas. You're gonna light dots because it's gonna make it so much deeper. Add all the work difference of what it was. See. So once again, going in, doing that tiny little dip black. Going in semicircles, dancing along, dark. You could do that up here too. But in here you want a specific section because there's a specific section. And this little divot right here, you're going to want to add the black right here. Going up, going to do a little line. That in. We're going to go back in with a red on that. I'm going to just take the black and do a comma. At a comma right there. And we're going to go back over that with the red again. Once you get that, if you still have some paint on there, just wash it off a little. Dab it. And too dry. Take that, blend that out. Line, barely touching. Careful with the delicate section. And if you notice there's any holes in it, that is just a-okay, because we're gonna add some more red. So again, it's the red planet. Is it a surprise at this point? We're gonna go in with the orangey red. And we're going to go around this area right here, adding just tiny little dots into the brown. Black. Back in. Section around. Adding the little tiny dots of red. That. Then we're going to go in for mixture of brown and red. And so what we're going to do for that, we're going red, brown, a little bit more red, a bit of brown. We're going to take that and put that back and forth, up and down and back and forth. I did not realize up until, like, you don't realize until you're painting it, the amount of color layers that are in ours. Like, I simply only thought of it as just red, but there's a lot more to that. I'm gonna go back in with the brilliant red. Whole lot of blending. And in this section right here, you're going to blend that out. Out it out. Make it more red. It's going to give it like a more fuchsia-y color. Don't worry, because we're going to go back in the other red too. We're going to make it a little bit more of a different. We have to get the back and forth. And you are going around that area right there. Then one, you can add little bits of red lightly. It's just going to add just a tiny bit of like the red texture. Dot, 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 dot. Back and forth, back and forth. Dot, dot, dot. Back and forth, back and forth. Like so. We're about to do this too, and that's what we should have right. Okay, now we're about to get into the next section of ice. So we're going back in with our medium brush. And our old friend vanilla is coming. Take our vanilla. We're going to paint over our icy section. You could really see now, because like with red, how much of a different color of white than it is. Take that and do little dots like I said last time to make it look icy. Do little lines to make it extend out. Make sure you keep it rounded. Out round. Now this section of white is not going to be as textured as the top. You're not going to have as many colors. This is a cleaner ice for sure. Then you're going to dip back into the vanilla. So then you're going to go around the edge very lightly with just the tip of it. And you're also going to take the same bits, same vanilla, and do two little lines, circles right here, comma, like that. Do one right here, very lightly, much lighter. Tiny bit of white, barely even touching it. If it's not showing up right away, don't press it. It will come up and it'll be just the perfect amount that you need. So. Down. See that there's kind of a connector right there. And you're going to want to dry that off. Clean it. Dab it a little. Test it on your hand. And then you're going to want to blend that out. Just going to cause little white lines, and that's exactly what you want. White clouds. That's what essentially that you want in this section. White clouds. That. Add so much more. See how Mars is coming together now? It's looking less of like a glob and more like a planet. I like the beauty of painting this one is that you truly cannot see like the wonders that you are doing with this painting until you're almost done. And then we are going to go in to that cream color again, but we are going to be using baby brush again. Baby brush has been making quite the showing today. Take baby brush and go into the dip that in just very lightly. I see a water glob if you get rid of it real quick. And then right there, this is going to be very light. I'm going to have just tiny little dots going in. One little dot right there. Blend that out. Dry it off. Blend that out. And yes, take it into the planet because it's already in the planet, but in the red part of the planet, because we are going to be using this shade in for the red bits. And just like we did before, take a little bit of, gosh, I just shoved my whole finger into the red paint. My God. You're going to take a small portion right here, dab that off, dab, 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 little tiny dots. And you're going to want to dance that around with these little dots around the edge. Then you're going to want to ziggy zag that up. Light bit of texture with kind of like a dry brush stroke, pushing it upwards. Make it work with you. You need to add a little pressure. Don't be afraid to add that pressure. Then you're going to go back into the vanilla color with the brush being dry. I'm going to dab, dab, dab. Blend, blend, blend. Dab and blend. Okay. And it doesn't have to be even on both sides. Like that. And then what we're going to do for the last bit, getting our planet together before we go back into the stars. Sorry, I lost the tiny brush. We are going in, adding just the tiniest bit of texture along the planet. So, what you're going to want is the bright red. Dot that in there. Go into this section and add a little bit more red. Going into it, blend it out. So. Then we're going to clean off your brush. Your water may be this lovely purpley color. That's what I have. Then you're going to go back into that taupey color. I lied. You're going to want the big brush for this. So clean off your big brush, make that nice and dry. Very important for this part to be dry. Go into that nice taupey. That, you're going to take it off to the side, maybe on your towel. Get it so it looks like this. Then you're going to take it. You're going to scrape that across very lightly. Like hold the brush straight up and scrape that across very lightly. Across this section of the planet. It should sound like you're cutting stuff. You're on a chopping block. You dot, 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 dot. Drag, 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 drag. Then you're going to go to your bit. Much. The dot like to make bristles are just being just enough. So, because you don't want it to be too much. Bit red into out that out. Sorry, my head got it. Just like that. Right there, you have your planet Mars. Looks super cool and amazing. Now, for our final touches, we are going to make the back as black as we can, and that's really going to make this planet pop. Going back in, but it'll go into your black, get a nice blob. Really start painting that stuff on. The blacker your background, the more your planet will pop. That's the important part. Playing it to shine. Oh, I'm so sorry. How I'm holding this. I'm doing the texture where you take the paint. I take my fingers, the thumb, middle finger. I'm in this corner. And so I can hold it like this so I don't touch the edges, so I'm able to paint the edges. It does not work when you have a full-size canvas, but if you have a mini canvas, it works just swell. Look at that. Look how much better the planet is looking now that it's deep of a black. Then you're going to want to take the edge. I'm going to give you a substantial amount of black paint kits. Should be, I have excess, honestly, because while you don't need much of the other color, little goes a long way. Black, we want that to be extremely opaque. That is the most opaque part we want. Like I said, we're trying to mimic the void of space. Thing is blacker than space itself. And even if your edges, as you see right here, aren't like filling in like you have front of the painting, that is a-okay, because like we saw before, we have to wait for that to dry a little bit before we could get into that. Put that on a nice paper towel like so. And then we, as soon as I could find the paintbrush, there we go. I added a weird part in mine. I'm just gonna cover it up real quick. Like I added a little bit too much of the brown. I'm gonna add white right there. But now we're going to make our star. And to make the stars, what you're gonna want to do is you're gonna get that white, the whitest white. Dip your brush on in there. Get a good glob of that of it on your brush, because the black paint is thick, so we're gonna need this to be thick. And you're going to want to just add the tiniest dots of white along your. It does not matter where you put it, how many stars you have, it's up to your discretion. You have, I think, full of stars. You want to have like variations though. Some stars are other farther away, or some shine brighter. I like to go for a good star. Remember this section? It's an open Mars symbol. There we go. Now it's time to paint the symbol of Mars, which, by the way, not sure if you knew, is actually the male symbol. The symbol to signify a male is the symbol for Mars. And the symbol to signify a woman, Venus. So, just a little back for you. Now we're going to go into our brilliant red. We're going to have our medium-sized brush where we're going to spike that up. You've been to the tiny painting corner where you know about spike up. So to make it nice and pointy. To that brilliant red, you want to get a good blob just like last time. Black paint's thick. Get in there, and the first thing you're going to do is draw a circle. Back in. Might pick up some black paint because it's not fully dry, but that's okay. And then from this angle, you are going to make a line like so. Draw an arrow. You know how to make the male symbol, you'll be good. It may not show up right away, but that's okay because you've got a lot of red paint. You're just going to layer that on. down. Get some more red paint. Carefully outline parts that may have, and it's okay if it's not like completely perfect. This is just symbol. It could blend in a bit in the background. There we have it, right here and there, my tiny painting friends. We have our planet Mars. It's all done. It is super. I'm excited for when we come back in November and I believe, Saturn, or it could be either way. We're going to be doing a fun gas giant. I hope you guys enjoyed yourself today. Thank you for joining the Orland Park Public Library with the tiny painting corner. I hope to see you guys next time, and thank you so much for coming. I hope you have fun.